Hello, friends. My name is Eric Cloward, and welcome to the Stoic Coffee Break. The Stoic Coffee Break is a weekly podcast where I take aspects of Stoicism and do my best to break them down to their most important points. I share my experiences, both my successes and my failures, my thoughts, in the hope that you might gain something from them and learn something, all within the space of a coffee break. This week's episode is called Dealing with Frustration. Now, normally I take time to sit down and write my episodes. I like to really think about them and ponder and make sure that what I'm giving to my audience is something that's well thought out, well spoken, has a lot of value in it. And in doing that, I am usually able to come up with things that are maybe counterintuitive or kind of like those nuggets of gold so that I can really share those things. But I missed last week's podcast episode because I just had way too much going on. And this week ended up being the same. And I didn't want to miss an episode. And today was a hard experience. And so this week's episode is just going to be more off the cuff. It's going to be talking about what's been going on and talk about how I've been using a lot of the things that I studied in Stoicism to really help me to keep my equanimity. So one of the hardest things about moving to Amsterdam is that housing here is really tight. And getting an apartment is something that's very challenging. And there are all sorts of aspects that go along with that. But it's just a very tight housing market. And I've been looking for a place to stay for the last few months. And I thought I found a place. Everything looked really good. I was really excited about it. It's a beautiful little place. It's in a really nice neighborhood. It's next to this really cool bar that I was super excited about. And today I was supposed to go in and get registered. So when you're in Holland, you need to go register once you've been approved to be a resident, which is what I was planning on doing today. And part of that is that you have to have a permanent place to live. And I thought that I had this. I had a contract that was signed. I had paid some money for it. I was going to go pick up the keys afterwards. And when I went into the office to show them my contract that I had, there was a problem with the address. The postal code and the address didn't match up. And then I noticed that the address on there wasn't the address that I had been shown. So I called the broker that I've been working with on getting this place, and he told me that it would all be taken care of and that I would have this new contract with a new address, and it would be signed and ready to go within an hour or two. And that was at 11 o'clock this morning. And I haven't heard anything from him since. It is 9 o'clock right now. So I sent several messages on WhatsApp, and I tried calling him multiple times, and nothing. No response, no reply. My messages haven't even been looked at. So I took my time, and I thought about this, and I thought, okay, what can I do in this situation? And I was giving him the benefit of the doubt. And like I said, I kept calling, and nothing, still nothing. Completely ghosted me after I paid for this apartment. So what to do? I could feel that I was frustrated. I was trying to do some writing while I was waiting to hear back from him. And it was challenging. So the writing I'm working on is for a book on Stoicism that should be coming out next fall. And I kept noticing that it was really hard for me to focus on what I was doing because I was feeling that frustration with it. And in writing this book, I've been writing a lot about living according to virtue, the idea of emotions within Stoicism, how they handle their emotions. And so a lot of this stuff has been really in the front of mind for me. And so I took some time and I really thought about how I wanted to handle this. I talked to some of the other brokers I've been working with about what I should do about this. And the first thing they said is, wow, this really sounds like fraud. So you need to contact your bank and see if you can somehow get the transactions reversed. And so I spent the next 3 hours chatting with my bank, trying to get these transactions reversed. They've opened a case and they're looking into it. I kept giving them screenshot after screenshot and the housing contract. But again, screenshots of our conversations, screenshots of what had taken place. And yeah, so my hope was that I would be recording this podcast and I would have one ready for you from my new apartment. And I was really looking forward to that. Like I said, it's a beautiful place, but it doesn't look like that's coming through because I have no idea how to get in contact with this broker and he's not returning any of my calls. So basically, I just got ghosted, and hopefully, I'm not out a bunch of money for this. But in doing so, it really made me stop and think about how Stoicism isn't just something that's good in theory, that it's not something we just study about and think, wow, that's a really good idea. Use your rationality to control your emotions. But that we really need to take that time and do our best to apply it. And I'm not saying that I was perfect with it, but I recognize that had this happened 5 years ago, 6 years ago, before I really got into Stoicism, I definitely would have been much more upset. I would have been fretting. I would have probably had really bad heartburn because when I get upset like that, my stomach hurts. But I found myself remaining pretty cool about this and just trying to do my best to take it step by step, make sure that I was documenting everything that I needed to, taking all the screenshots of our conversations, sending them on to my bank, and just walking through the process of doing this rather than sitting there fretting about it and getting myself more and more worked up. So after all of that was done, it was about 6 o'clock, 6:30. I hopped on my bike and was coming home. And unfortunately, as is the case at this time of year in Holland, got caught in a downpour. So I was completely soaked by the time I came home. Uh, so I'm just sitting here in this apartment that I've rented for the last month. It's kind of a dump. I was really hoping not to be sleeping here tonight, but that's just kind of the way that life goes. So I've just been chatting with some of my friends back in the States, just kind of commiserating, but also laughing about it because I don't want anybody else to be able to control my mood. And that was one thing that I decided when all of this was happening that as frustrated as the situation might seem, if I get upset because of some actions of somebody else, then that is something that I have let them have control over me. And that's not something that I want. I want to make sure that I'm in control of my emotions, that I decide when it's appropriate for me to be upset or angry about something. And this is just something that fortunately we have some systems in place that I should be able to get my money back. It's unfortunate that I don't have a permanent residence at this point, which is a little bit frustrating, but it's just part of the process. It's been challenging moving over here, trying to get all the paperwork done, do all the things that I need to in order to stay here. But it's been coming along slowly. So my application has been approved. So I just need to find a permanent place. And then I get to be able to be registered and I get what's called a BSN, which is like the social security number in the United States. And then I'll be able to get a Dutch bank account and get a Dutch phone number, which I haven't been able to do yet either. So just a lot of setbacks with this. But I really took it to heart that the Stoics really meant it when they said that when you get upset, you are letting other people have power over you. And I didn't want this person to have power over me. The other big disappointment was that I liked this guy. He seemed very friendly. He seemed very charming. He seemed very, very earnest in what he was doing. And so I was really happy to work with him through some of the challenges that we had of trying to get all this stuff organized. So I think that some of my disappointment is that somebody would do something like this when we could have worked together in some way and made it so it was a good solution for both of us. But I don't know the whole story behind it. And so my biggest hope is that, believe it or not, is that even if this is some kind of scam, that it's a scam. And the reason I'm not hearing from him is from that and not that he got into a car accident and died or is in the hospital or something. Because I did think about that. I thought, well, what if something happened to him? So for me, I want to make sure that I don't think the worst of other people as well. And that I'm trying to make sure that I keep my thinking in line with the kind of person that I want to be. I wouldn't want the reason that not able, or that he's not contacting me to be that he's not able to, that he's injured somewhere or something horrible has happened to him, because it's just money. And while it's a lot of frustration for me of all the time and effort I put in to try and get this deal to work, it doesn't mean that I wish harm on anybody else. So basically, as I'm doing this podcast episode, this isn't something where I'm sitting up here bragging about it, but just talking through my process, because I still feel frustrated by it. I still feel annoyance. I still feel some of that little bit of anger, but I've been very conscientious of those things and making sure that they don't overrun things and they don't ruin my mood, because I've done everything that I can. There's nothing else that I can do in this situation. I may end up having to go to the police about it. I hope not. I hope that it can be resolved some way and that I just get my money back, or that I get this apartment that I really wanted. But at the moment, I don't really see that happening. Not that I'm being uh, despairing about it or being a doomsayer about it, but just being practical that more than likely this probably isn't going to happen. And a couple of days ago, I had a kind of a gut feeling that that might be the case. I'm not sure why or what, but I didn't want to celebrate getting my new apartment until I was actually in it. So I guess a little bit of premeditatio mororum in that as well. Anyway, like I said, this isn't an episode where I'm sitting here bragging about how great I am being a Stoic, but the fact that I feel like I've improved a lot from how I used to handle things like this. Because 5 years ago, I would have been furious. I would have been raging. I would have been complaining to my friends. I would have been upset at every little thing and let every other little thing then annoy me, because I was in that kind of state. And this, I just did my best to handle things as matter of factly as possible, because it was what I was going to have to do anyway. I was going to have to file all this paperwork and do all of these things. And I could either do it being in an upset and pissy mood, or I could just do it in a matter of fact mood of, okay, this is something that happened and this is what I need to do to take care of it. So, in the end, for those of you who are on your Stoic path, I can tell you that for me, it does make a difference. That this way of thinking and this way of working forward does make a huge difference in your life. Because even though this thing happened to me, I'm handling it in what I think is a way that I'm proud of, and in a way that I feel good about, that I feel that is with integrity, and also keeping, like I said, keeping myself in a good mood in spite of everything that's going on around me. So that's the end of this week's Stoic Coffee Break. As always, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and thanks for listening.